Welcome to Built-In Boost, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes at the DDS Companies, where we're laying the foundation for tomorrow's infrastructure. In each episode, we bring you the real stories from the people who make it all happen, honoring everyone from the field to the front office. Join us as we explore their journeys, uncover the lessons they've learned, and show you how to build a rewarding career in the civil construction industry. If you're ready to learn from those who've built their success from the ground up, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Built-In Boots podcast, where we explore the stories, the skills, and successes behind today's leading construction and utility professionals. I'm your host, Jordan Potter.
And I'm Mark Payne. We're excited to kick off a special roadshow series where Jordan and I hit the road across New York State to meet 5 incredible DDS crews on their home turf.
That's right. Today marks our very first stop in Albany, where we were joined by 2 amazing guests from our DDS Albany team, Regional Manager Dave Raber and Project Manager Chase Weingard.
In this episode, we dive deep into the ever-growing world of gas infrastructure replacement to uncover what makes this niche both challenging and rewarding. You're going to hear how old-school experience blends with cutting-edge technology, how we harness hands-on training for the new recruits, and why the future looks brighter than ever for anyone considering a career in utilities.
So if you're curious about why this industry is booming and how you can become a part of it, stay tuned. This episode is one you do not want to miss. Thanks again. My name is Jordan. I am here today with my co-host, Mr. Mark Payne. How you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing awesome.
All right.
We are not alone. We sit here in the Albany DDS shop with Mr. Chase and Mr. Dave Raber.
How's it going this morning?
It's going great.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. We just want to sit down and have a conversation about what's going on in the world of DDS Utilities out here in Albany. Let's first start by introducing our guest, Dave Raber. Maybe we'll start with you. Tell us your official title, your background, what you do here at DDS Albany.
Yeah, sure. My official title is Regional Manager for the operations that we have going on based in Albany. Really, my job description here is everything from sweeping the floors in the shop to being a foreman on a job site or driving a dump truck, basically whatever it takes to help our crews keep moving forward in our never-ending efforts to put gas infrastructure in the ground. We cover a pretty big region here we call it the Capital District, but really spanning everywhere from points north in Glens Falls to points, I guess it would be west Utica nearly, somewhere where we hit with Zach Murray over that way.
Yep.
We don't get too far south. Our shop is about as far south as we go here in Duanesburg, which is nice, other than I live south of here. Looking for that unicorn job that happens next to my house, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Don't see that happening anytime soon.
That's awesome. Chase, let's turn the tables on you a little bit. I guess tell us your name, I guess, is Chase Weingard? Weingard,
Yeah.
Sorry. I mess that up every time. So yeah, Chase, tell us a little bit about yourself and then how you got started in this business.
Yeah, so I'm Chase. I'm Supervisor, Project Manager out here. I've been here about 9 months now. So far, I love it. It's awesome. No complaints. Everybody's awesome to work with. You guys are awesome. It's a great company to work for. We span all of New York State into Massachusetts and surrounding areas. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of great people that work here, and so far it's been awesome.
I would share the same feelings that you share as well. It's a great company, and we're doing something new here. I don't think there's many other contractors out there that are doing a podcast like we are today. We try to stay on the cutting edge of technology. We try to stay getting ahead of the workforce that's coming in behind us. And part of the reason why we're doing this podcast is so that we can share the stories for the people that are working within this business, within this industry. And hopefully we can inspire some people to maybe want to get involved. And hearing your story, I think coming up here is going to be part of that. And Dave, your story as well. So I'm really excited to get into it, share your stories, and maybe you might inspire somebody to get involved in the business.
Yeah, for sure. Part of the target audience
for this is some of the guys that we're going to visit in schools and stuff like that. I know out here, you guys have taken in 2 or 3 guys from the different school districts that we've visited and worked with. And it's been a lot of fun to see that growth and see those guys here. Actually, I talked to a couple of them this morning. It was really cool to catch up with them. So yeah, it's hard to pull guys out of the field, especially when the schools are looking to have us come in. So I'm hoping that this becomes a vehicle to tell those stories, and Jordan said, inspire guys to get into it.
Yeah, and I think you guys have done a great job, especially you with Alfred and all the BOCES around. We've had, I don't know, 3-4 guys now probably that have come either directly from Alfred that are still in college that are here working for the summer, or from BOCES programs right out of school coming to work. And I think we're doing the right things to try to get DDS into the minds of people that are in that position, that are in heavy equipment, or they're just trying to get in labor and dig some holes. But these kids got great work ethic, and they're great additions. And I think you're doing a great job trying to reach out to those younger folks.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's a lot of fun to interact, especially at the school level and things like that. I'm hoping selfishly that we can take these conversations to those folks and they can see that there is a path.
Yeah.
And it's worthwhile. It's worth doing, for sure.
So, Dave, I got one for you. For the people that might be listening in on this, they don't know anything about gas construction. They don't know anything about, maybe they don't even know anything about construction. Can you paint the picture of what your world looks like out here? What are we actually doing out there?
For the most part, we are taking old infrastructure, old gas piping that's in the ground, feeds your standard house or apartment or business, providing heat, or if it's in the case of a business, could be firing ovens, basically energy source, much like electric or any other energy source. The old piping that's in the ground delivering that gas, for the most part, a lot of it was installed in the 40s, 50s, 60s, old material, and a lot of that needs to be upgraded. So we're taking the old stuff out of the ground and replacing it with new, more modern piping.
Yep. So I'm the regional manager for the DDS Utilities group out there in central New York. Dave and I essentially share the same responsibilities. He gets in the trenches a little bit more than I do, which I get jealous of because I get stuck in the office a little bit more. But at the end of the day, we are working on what's called a leak main replacement program for our customers. Out here in Albany, the primary customer is National Grid. And in the Syracuse market, we also serve National Grid. And then in the central New York office, primarily we're serving RG&E and NYSEG. And they're publicly mandated to replace this infrastructure. I came from the heavy civil side, so I had no idea the market even exists. And when I came in, for me, when I first entered into this business segment, I'll call it, pipe is pipe, right? You're just digging a ditch and you're putting pipe in. But at the end of the day, we're replacing infrastructure that's from the 1950s vintage in that time period there. A lot of it is bare steel in the territory that I work in. Out here in Albany, it might be cast iron. It might be
A lot of cast iron.
Yep, it might be pressure pipe, old infrastructure, and essential to get that infrastructure replaced. And it's a great business. It's a great opportunity for people who want to get involved and learn something that's pretty specialized in that regard. It's a phenomenal trade. We're moving more towards the professional side of things where we're not just calling them laborers anymore. We're calling them gas technicians because of the amount of compliance and training and OQs, operator qualifications that goes into that. Chase, do you have any thoughts on what it takes to get into the business? Maybe share your story, where you came from with your background, and then getting involved on the gas side of things.
Yeah, my background, my dad is at a construction company for the last 30 years. He builds houses, does remodeling, things like that. So I was always around the construction side of things. I never had any gas experience or anything like that. I was a financial guy. I went to school for financial services. I did a lot on the money side of things. And then I was a project manager for Pella Windows and Doors out in Albany. So I was running crews and I was running jobs, but it wasn't gas related. DDS found me actually, and it was the greatest decision I ever made. But I think somebody coming in, especially in the field, it's almost better if they don't have any gas experience because you can teach them and you can train them the ways that things are supposed to happen. A lot of times when, in any industry, when people come in, they already have their thoughts in their head or they're stuck in their ways. So I think there's not really barriers to entry when it comes to this kind of work. You just got to have a good work ethic, want to show up to. There's a lot of risk when it comes to replacing gas lines or working around gas. Safety is in the forefront. But I think anybody that's willing to work and willing to put in the time and effort to be safe and put in the hours can be successful in this industry. And like you had already touched on, all this piping is old piping. It's leak prone. It's a safety hazard if people like us aren't putting in new pipes. Yeah.
I think that was very well said.
Yeah, I agree.
Mark, what is your opinion? I just want to touch on this. You had said something about training and kind of getting into the business. Mark is our director of training, so you are the spear of the company when it comes to leading us and further developing our workforce. What are in all of your years of training, what is different about the gas business versus some of the other things?
The gas business has become very much compliance driven. And what we found out, it's been a double-edged sword. A lot of the folks that have been doing gas for a long time, they have some hesitation with it. But like Chase said, a person that comes in with no preconceived notions, with the ability, the interest, and the want to actually learn, we have that training program in place where we can train them the way that the customer wants that pipe put in. And I think that's really important to be able to serve the customer, be compliant, and keep everything moving in the right direction. At the end of the day, our number one goal is to put in a safe infrastructure that's able to service the customer for a long time to come.
Yep.
And so that's number one for us.
Yeah. Dave, any thoughts on that? On the training side of things, getting into this business?
Yeah, so speaking from my own experience, the gas business was always something I knew about, but looking at it, never really could figure out I knew it was there, but I couldn't figure out how you got into it. It was like an elusive,
right?
Okay, there's money to be made. It's kind of construction like I've been doing, but how do I get into doing it? Once you see that the vehicle is the training, that is the pathway, is getting in and getting some of the training to get you out in the field. And it used to be that they didn't make that available. It was a little secretive. How do we get this training? Where does this so-called training happen? You know,
Right.
Now we've gotten to a point where we know we need help. We need people in the industry. So we're able to really broadcast it that, hey, we're providing the training. Come get trained, come to work. It really evolved quite a bit here recently, and probably the past 10 years, honestly, as the compliance and the training requirements have increased. I definitely agree with what you guys have made note of, that it really has gotten to the point where taking someone who has little to no experience, there's a benefit in that because we can train them appropriately, not to out any of the old guys that have been doing this their whole lives. But I actually fell into that category where I had to reset my mind, the way I looked at things, because I was so used to, this is how we do it. This is the gas business. It's changed here very recently, and either get with the times or you don't.
Yeah.
You're not going
Right.
to make it in this industry. So
Yeah.
I give a lot of credit to guys like yourself, Mark, that are, spearheading some of this training, and our whole training staff, honestly, for, being able to bring guys in and keep them up to speed with the never ending list of compliance items that are out there. It's like,
Yeah.
it seems like every week there's something new.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree with you, and I felt the same way. I had been around construction for a very long time, and I felt like there's a lot of us that feel that we want to go and get after it and get it done, especially recently with the additional training pieces that have came in and the additional focus on safety and compliance and everything. We've had to take a beat, step back, look at things, and really evaluate, okay, where are we at? What do we need to do? How can we do this the safest way possible? How can we be as compliant as possible with all the demands?
Dave, now you have a background in construction, right?
Yeah, so I grew up on a dairy farm, which morphed into a construction business, just like you were saying, general residential and commercial construction. I always had a focus on utilities, or that's where I always was most interested in, utilities, water, sewer, storm drain, things like that. I like putting pipe in the ground. And then eventually, once I was able to get myself in, started doing some pipeline work more interstate, large diameter steel pipeline stuff, which then turned me on to this residential distribution style gas piping.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I think that is a very interesting career path. I would say, out of all the people that come into this business, it's not usually from knowing nothing to all of a sudden now you're getting trained. There's a lot of guys that are in this business that are making pivots into the business. I share your story where I come from a background in family construction and things like that, and somehow found myself here. For the people that might be listening and maybe interested in taking that pivot, what were some of the what advice would you give somebody who would want to make a pivot in?
Well, I think you hit on a very important, actually, one of the things that really led me to making the decision to pivot, you hit on, and that was this industry is not, it's not private money. We're not really bound to political decisions. We're not, I guess, just to boil it down, this pipe that we're putting in is mandated. A government entity is telling these companies that they have got to replace this pipe. Doesn't matter what the economic status is in the state, doesn't matter what the political environment is, this work is going to happen. So there is it's very solid. There's no chance of it going away. I get this question from a lot of the folks like in my hometown that don't really know 100% what I do. They think I'm a pipeliner. They think, which is what I used to be. I'm a reformed pipeliner now, or as reformed as somebody like me can get. Right? What's going on in the political environment right now? I get the same question from lots of people. Geez, are you even working? How could you be working right now? There's no pipeline work going on. And it goes into this long explanation of what I do now, and I'm not worried about the political environment. This work will always be going on regardless of who's in office or, like I said, what the economy is doing. This is an essential need for people so that they can have heat in their houses and they can cook and all that. That really was the biggest decision for me, pivoting from the more pipeline work. I stepped that back a few years. Really, I got into the gas business and pivoted from the general construction because of the money. There was more money to be made in the natural gas industry than there was in building whatever it was, Cumberland Farms.
Yep, I would agree with you. I think the sense of security that you get in an industry like we're in now, it outweighs a lot of the other things that are out there in construction. So I came from the civil side. In our company, we do civil work, and I love civil work. I think building that type of infrastructure is just as fun as what we're doing out here. But the one thing that this has a benefit over the other styles of businesses that are out there is the demand is so high, and there's so few people that do what we do, that it creates a sense of security that you can't otherwise get. I think that plays a huge role into people's decisions on making a pivot. The money's there. There's been some law changes in New York State that have made that happen even more so. So between both of those, it just makes for a great career path. Chase, do you have any thoughts from looking back at your background coming into the business as far as what we just talked about?
Yeah, to Dave's point, anybody that gets into a career, they want to know that career is going to be around and they don't have to worry about if they can go to work on Monday. So in that aspect, it brings some sort of comfort knowing that, hey, this job's going to be around a long time. You're going to be able to excel and do what you guys got to do to get work done because you got the work. It's mandated. What I would say is that something you touched on is that DDS as a whole, there's many different segments of what we do. And I think that brings some diversity into it. If there's a job that's not directly tied to any particular division, we have the resources and the ability to get a particular job done. And I think that's awesome too. We can collaborate and work together amongst divisions to make sure that we can service our customers the best that we can and make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah, I love that. It's part of the whole reason why we want to do the Built in Boots podcast and why we're kicking this off is DDS as a whole. We offer so many different services and we do so many different things as a company. And as one unit, but it just brings strength overall. So not only are we in strong markets in and of themselves, but then we offer certain divisions and certain services that just puts us in a whole new category, I would say. Very cool. I love hearing the background stories and how you kind of wander your way into the gas business. For me, that's definitely how it happened.
Yeah, I feel the same. I had put a post out on LinkedIn this weekend, but it was very true. I had started with DOT when I got out of high school and plowed snow and did all the maintenance on the highways and stuff like that. And then I had the opportunity to pivot into teaching heavy equipment at the college, and I really thought that would be where I would retire from. That was the plan. And then as things turned out, I had an individual that kind of turned into a mentor / a guy that turned into a friend and a mentor and everything else. He was coming down and recruiting my guys, and he was spending a lot of time with us, and we kept talking. He's like, hey, you ought to come up and check this out. You ought to come check this out. And finally I made the phone call, and within a day it was like, hey, you need to come up and we need to talk. And that was what turned the whole thing. That happened about 3 years ago. So it was interesting. And then coming into the gas world, gas does some different things. The OQ structure actually is good in a way that provides a real structure. You need these qualifications in order to do this work. And that's just the way it's going to be, right? And so you train guys up and you get them where they need to be from that. Something that I'm going to ask you guys, and I want to put that out there from my perspective, and you guys can fill in. When it comes to your background and stuff like that, you mentioned the dairy farm. Our family had farm. They still have beef cows and stuff like that. One of the things that happened with us is we worked until the work was done. There was not a lot of go and mess around. If there was, it was Saturday night. We went to the dirt track, but that was work too, right? Getting a race car ready and everything else. Going back through that, what stuff early on, like in your teenage years, did you bring with you to today? Like work ethic and things like that. I know for me, it was the work ethic. My wife thinks I'm nuts. I spend a lot of time working on things. I'm driven to do that. I feel like it's the right thing to do. I don't know. What is it for you that you brought from like your teenage years?
Oh, I grew up with a father that always would tell you if you weren't 15 minutes early, you were 15 minutes late. So that's...
Oh, there you go.
Amen to that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, growing up on a farm was huge. We learned at a young age that there was nobody there to do the work other than myself, my brother,
It was you.
Exactly. So that really was pivotal for me in my career in general, not even just in the gas industry. I think we're up against a pretty tough struggle these days. Every year, more and more, technology has become something that's really, hey, it's my opinion, but technology is inhibiting a lot of bright young minds from achieving what they really could be achieving. So I think that right off the bat, guys our age were lucky that we didn't have that option even really to be playing PlayStation and stuff because they didn't exist. So what'd you do? You went and took the lawnmower apart.
Yeah, you went and did something, right?
So I think there's definitely some luck there, but yeah.
I think that's an important point to go back to the history of where this type of business really stems from, in my opinion. You look at the workforce now and you look at the workforce that's entering. Okay, so you look at you can use the word old timers, you can use the word or words like it, but I sit in a position right now where I'm honored to be able to lead a team the size that I do, but I think we're upwards of 100 guys right now and multiple crews. And of those guys, out of the 100, you're talking about half of them right now are upwards of 40 years old, at least. They're guys that have been in the business for a long time. The amount of knowledge that's there, the amount of experience that's there, they're cut from a different cloth, so to speak. Then you've got the young talent we talked about earlier, recruiting in from the trade schools. It's totally different. So it creates a very unique dynamic out there in the workforce. You're talking about technology, Dave, and that is something that some of the guys with all the experience in the world, they struggle with the technology piece. We're moving more and more into a digital age where everything's got to get documented and inputted into a tablet. Most of our crews, actually every crew that we have, they have a tablet in their hands and they're entering in information constantly. Some of the more smarter guys are delegating that task to some of the younger folks who are a little bit better at it, but more power to them. I'm all about that cross-training and empowering their teams. It's a really interesting dynamic. It's something that I look at it as a good thing. We've got young talent coming in. I also sense a little fear a little bit from the seat that I sit in, because you've got all that experience that one day is going to retire. And Mark, you've got a very tall order to train the next generation of workforce that's going to come in, because at the end of the day, that experience, you just can't replace it overnight.
No, you can't. And I feel that same fear that you do. Looking at my team, I've got some guys that are on the edge of retirement right now, and the amount of experience that's in those guys, it's huge. So we're constantly bringing guys in and looking for who's next. You've got to constantly be thinking of that.
I think the workforce we have now, those older guys that are on the fringe of retiring, I think most all of them are very open to handing down their knowledge too, which is huge. If you got a couple younger guys and a few older guys on a crew, those older guys are trying to teach and instill the ways of the work onto those guys. So
Right.
I think it's a two-headed monster. You got the training side of things that's teaching the new guys when they first come in, and then there's a lot of on-the-job experience that's getting handed down, which is a lot of people sometimes don't want to give that knowledge to somebody else, but they know the importance of it. They know how much goes into this line of work, so they want to be able to see the next generation be successful and keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of them are at the point where they're looking at it, they're saying, okay, I want to make sure that gas is safe coming into our house too. So they're definitely trying to do that. One of the big focuses for me is trying to provide tools for the guys that are our age, the mid-40 guys that are out there, they're foremen or whatever. They're getting these young guys, okay, is there a tool that I can provide them to help with the training on the job? Because my team is small, it can't be everywhere. So we focus our efforts, and then a lot of that on-the-job training is definitely critical.
Yeah. So we're going to start to close this thing out. We do have a pretty fun round, we hope to be. We're going to call it the rapid fire round. Before we get there, I guess just closing thoughts and closing statements here. And I'm going to ask Dave and Chase here, if you could give any piece of advice, one piece of advice for your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself to not buy so many pickup trucks. No. Yes. I think that's still my older self I'm trying to tell that too.
Same here.
No, I spent in my early part of my career, I spent a lot of time jumping around from company to company and $1 here, $1 there. I never really as much wasn't personal issues. It was about money, where I would have been money ahead to pick and focus on a trajectory. I look back at a lot of these places I worked at that were awesome. And most often I say, gee, I wish I'd have just stayed there. If I'd have just stayed working there and worked my way up, I was going a good direction, but I bailed out and I went and I worked over here because they offered me $1 more an hour. Definitely say, I know that sounds kind of cliche, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Most of the time that I've done that, I've looked back and said, I should have just stayed where I was at.
Should have stayed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a closing thought, this is something, and I would agree with you 110% personally. That's quite honestly the only reason why I am where I am right now is because I chose to be loyal. I chose to not jump around, even though it was hard at certain times, even though that there might have been a shiny penny to pick up somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I would say that loyalty has paid off tenfold, and I would give that same advice to my younger self to reinforce that, to just stay the course, because in the end, you're gonna earn what I would call career equity with the industry that you're working in and the company that you're working for. You will see that pay dividends in the future. And I'm speaking to my younger self and anybody who's younger and listening to this. A company like DDS, they will treat you the best I've ever seen anywhere. But I would just say hunker down and make that investment. Chase, I know you're a pretty young guy, but if you were to give yourself some advice, even in the past 5 years, what advice would you give yourself?
It would be stay humble, but stay hungry. Maybe that big shift isn't going to happen today or tomorrow or the next day, but as long as you're hardworking and you're honest to yourself, it'll pay off in the end.
Totally agree.
Totally agree.
Great advice. Listen, guys, this was an incredible podcast episode. Thank you guys both for sitting in and having a conversation with us. I'm excited to have conversations with more people, especially within DDS, and have these types of conversations because I think these conversations are worth hearing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that they'll turn out to be gold for sure. Definitely.
All right. So let's wrap this up. Dave, you're up first. Rapid fire.
Oh boy.
Um,
Okay.
So we're going to do a little this or that.
Yeah.
Ford or Chevy?
That's easy. Ford.
Ford. All right.
Cat or John Deere?
Are we talking skid steers or excavators?
Oh, come on.
Oh, we'll go cat.
Go Cat. All right. How about Cat 308 or John Deere 85?
Oh, I'd go with the 85.
85.
Ooh, see? He
there
just
we
switched
go.
it up. There we go. Chase. All right, we're going to switch this up a little bit. Brisket or pulled pork?
Anything that Mark's firing off the smoke.
Let's see here. Mild or hot?
How you like your wings?
Yeah, don't fail this one, Chase.
I like
Your
I
job
like them
depends
a
on
little,
this.
little hotter.
Well,
Okay.
hot.
All right, that's good enough. We'll take that.
Yeah, you are a real man, Chase.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you like your hot sauce. All right.
Yeah, all right.
Last one for both of you. Have either of you ever consumed a Rochester garbage plate?
Too many of them.
Too
Really?
many of them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. No, I love them. I'll eat another one. You got one right now?
I
I'm
swear to-
intrigued. No, I have no idea what it is.
I'm with you,
Oh,
Dave.
yeah.
Honestly, I have not had a Rochester garbage plate.
Yeah.
That's it. Next time you guys are out, we're going to Nick's. We're going to go get a real Rochester garbage plate.
So we're going to leave that as the ultimate cliffhanger. For anybody who's listening, you're going to have to find out what a Rochester garbage plate, maybe Google it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Google it.
at the end of the day, we're going to have to find out what that Rochester garbage plate is. I do want to say thank you both again. One more time. Mark, thanks for doing this with me and vice versa. I appreciate you bringing me along for this ride for this whole Built in Boots podcasting that we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to sit here and watch you work. So I love putting you on the spot like this. That's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. So for anybody who is interested in learning more about DDS and what we do, you can visit us online at the DDScompanies.com. We may end up kicking off a special domain, a special website just for the Built in Boots podcast. I guess we'll announce that when the time comes. But ultimately, I would encourage you that if you're interested at all in making a career switch or getting involved in the construction industry, DDS as a whole has many options, whether it's on the civil engineering side, whether it's on our heavy civil side, our transmission pipeline side, or the utility distribution side.
Utility distribution, and don't forget telecom.
Yep, and telecom.
Friends over
Absolutely.
in telecom. Yeah, for sure. If you happen to see us driving down the road, check out our mobile training center and our training trailer. Feel free to hit the QR codes if you are interested in putting in an app.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.